Hello, everyone. I'm going to end this poll now. Thank you, everybody who participated. It's nice to see so many people here. My name is Joanne, and I am the program coordinator for here at SheTek. Oops. So I wanted to welcome everybody and thank you for joining us. This is our 25th outlet. It's very exciting. And today we're going to be discussing human intelligence, the essential catalyst for advancing AI. Now, I do have another quick poll for those of you that are joining us. And if you'll give me just a moment, I'll pop this up. AI is such an interesting topic for everybody. And I wanted to see what everybody thought about this. Take just a moment if you could. Is AI a threat or a benefit? And while you answer this question, I will let you know a little bit of the housekeeping that we've got going on. Keep in mind, everybody has their microphones and their cameras off that are in the audience. Our panelists will be turning them on shortly. You can put in any questions you might have, either in the chat or more specifically in the Q&A. That's the best place to put them. And then as we go through our discussions, we're going to be adding those, putting those all together and asking those additional questions at the end of the webinar. So we'll give this just another moment. We have a great panel today. It's very exciting. But I wanted to introduce to you first our host and our founder of SheTek, Chaya Pamula. I just wanted to quickly share the results of this quick poll that we did for AI threat or benefit. A lot of people say benefit. A lot of people say be caution is still needed. And there's a few who think it's the rise of the machines. Thank you to those folks.
And Joanne, can you bring up the first poll?
The first poll, sure.
Yeah, the panelists had a chance to take a look at it.
And here's our first poll. And we have actually a fairly even distribution of folks that are students, entry level, a few more in the mid-career and executive, and a few business owners, which is very exciting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Joanne. And welcome, everyone. At this point, I would like to welcome our panelists to turn their cameras on. So we're going to have a very interesting webinar today on the topic, Human Intelligence, Essential Catalyst for Developing AI. So we have, three panelists here. I would like to introduce them, Douglas Vargo, Jean-Philippe, and Monica Adya. So I would request Douglas to just introduce himself quickly.
Yes, thank you, Chaya. And thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Doug Vargo. I lead a group called Emerging Technologies for CGI. CGI is a global management consulting systems integration firm that's helping organizations navigate this complexity of digital transformation. And much of my day is talking about generative AI and how it can be transformation. But just as the poll talked about, most customers are understand there's benefits, but there's caution. There's caution around the intellectual property, the data privacy, and they're looking for advice on how to move forward. So looking forward to today's discussion. And once again, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Doug. Jean-Philippe?
Good afternoon. Thank you first for having me in this panel. So Jean-Philippe Gerbi, I'm the Chief Digital Officer at Metropolitan Commercial Bank. We're a bank located in New York. I've been with the bank for 2 years of more than 25 years in IT, working on various transformation projects. So very excited to be on this panel because AI now is everywhere, in every discussion. There's a lot of press articles, and it's true that you have people who fear a bit of the evolution with AI and the people who see the benefits. So we need to see how we can balance both.
Thank you, Jean-Philippe. Monica?
Afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Chaya and SheTek for having this panel and inviting all of us. I'm the Dean at the School of Business at Rutgers, Camden, and in my own background, my area is information systems, and so I view this both as somebody who's very deeply interested in technology use and disuse and misuse, and artificial intelligence is very much a part of it, but also as the head of an academic unit that is exploring ways to introduce artificial intelligence in our curriculum, in our work development opportunities, and in partnership with corporations. So I'm very much looking forward to our conversation today.
Thank you, Monica. So first of all, thanks to all three of you for giving your time. So let us kick off the conversation. So welcome to our audience, and it's really nice to see a widespread of different backgrounds who are listening into this webinar today. So as I said, as many say, AI stands at the forefront of transformative innovation, promising to revolutionize our industries, redefine work processes, and also reshape our daily lives. So it's anywhere from enhancing the way we do things, or even enhancing our decision making through predictive analytics, or to enabling breakthroughs in many industries. So what we really want to focus today's conversation, because it's such a broad topic, we want to really focus on, there is this fear of many people, especially in the industry, that people may lose their jobs and AI is going to take over a lot of things, and they're going to be robots doing many things. We don't need humans anymore. There's a lot of noise going around. So we really want to focus our attention on what is the human element still that is so essential, important in advancing AI projects or any initiatives that are happening. So with that, I really want to first start at the fundamental level. I would like to ask maybe Jean-Philippe, you can help answer this question, and then Doug and Monica, please feel free to chime in. We really want to know what AI really means and what do we mean by its evolution. I think that will actually set a good foundation for this conversation.
Sure, thank you, Chaya. So first of all, AI is not new. I think what is important to understand is that there's a distinction between the classic AI, I would call it that way, and generative AI. AI has been around for decades. It's been used for various things like fraud detection, for instance, cybersecurity, infrastructure monitoring. So for many, many years, AI has been used. And we did not hear, all the different questions that we have today. What is different is two things for me. The first one is when we talk about generative AI, is AI creating content, being able to take some decisions. We can talk about that later, but that's what it can do. And it's also now put forward the consumers, where before AI was more, for businesses, I would say, or, very technology, enterprise or government centric. Today, it's consumers. So you have this, you're going to be able to use AI. Copilot is part of the desktop now with Windows 11. ChatGPT is available. The search engines all have their own AI. So everybody can use AI today. And for me, that's one of the biggest change, because it's very transformational. Not only people can use that in their personal life, but they can also use it directly or be the victim of, I would say, AI in the working environment.
Yeah, and just to add to where Jean-Philippe was coming, as he talked about, AI is not new. And it's funny when you look at the history, it's actually fascinating when you look at history. The term AI was coined back in 1956. That long ago is when we started to leverage artificial intelligence, when the Navy was trying to understand, was it a submarine or a whale? And unfortunately, they weren't able to do that back then. And now that's one of the big use cases, is being in the Department of Defense and intelligence agencies, being able to leverage and use computer vision to determine objects and speed of objects and the threat of objects to help keep our nations safe. And so AI is not new. And as I come back to it, we need to continue from a human centricity perspective to define use cases, because the technology is just that. It's capabilities. If you look at the time frame, what was very interesting is in the 1980s, we had concepts of expert systems, and they were purpose-built systems to really drive out outcomes. And that's was the formation of AI as we knew it. But not until the 20s, the 2020s, when we saw the emergence of compute and cloud technologies and cloud led to compute, data, and then this concept of algorithms really driving in these large language models when ChatGPT came on. That is where the ability to scale. And as Jean-Philippe just talked about, the idea of democratization of this, where every citizen can participate in AI and the generative aspect of AI. I'll probably say that's why we're here today, is because the excitement and the opportunity and the caution in which all of these things coming together in the scale and the speed that brings us to artificial intelligence.
Well said. Yeah. So Monica, you want to add on to it?
Yeah, just a quick, I think going back to what is AI, I mean, it really started with being able to mimic cognitive functions of human beings. And so if you go back, and Doug gave a really nice kind of going back to history, expert systems, we really were focused on the reasoning aspect of human decision making with those early systems. And then comes machine learning and neural networks, and we start getting into learning and self-learning, and that accumulation of being able to now process large amounts of very complex data, being able to develop algorithms that can work with massive volumes of data, is really where we have now come today, which is why our kind of adoption of artificial intelligence has really exploded, is the intersection of ability to capture data, lack of our ability as humans to process that volume of data, voice recognition, face recognition, and all of these kind of technologies have come together to give us where we are today. And I think, as we've been kind of talking, this is the future, this is here to stay, and we'll talk about that later. So.
Yeah, I think it's a good, conversation to start with, setting the stage. One thing I know, we talked about AI always been there, and, it's just the evolution we're talking about. But we see a lot of development, advancements in the healthcare industry. And this question is to any of you. I mean, what are the other industries really quickly adopting to this advancing AI technologies? And because my focus is always for these listeners, what are the industries, where there are opportunities, what skills they can develop, right? End of the day, we want to give them some pointers to take home. So anyone can answer. What are the other industries we are seeing that this is advancing?
Well, I'm happy to go first, and I was going to start with banking, but I'll let Jean-Philippe talk about that in just a moment. When you look at, I will say every industry is an AI everywhere strategy industry, and it's fascinating to see all the way at the executive board levels, organizations are trying to understand the art of the possible with AI/generative AI, and what can it do for them. And we are seeing it in every industry. A good example, even state and local government, looking at the citizen, how can it benefit citizens out there, leveraging IoT and understanding, even trains. If you look at around as trains are coming in and out of certain transit, the scheduling of the trains, the safety of the trains, looking at instead of having to worry about sending individuals out to look at tracks or train components, how can we leverage drones or computer visions or cameras to do real-time inspection across the trains? Same with, we're seeing windmills and things of that going up. Very similarly, no one wants to be climbing windmills and inspecting them anymore. We can leverage this type of technology and be able to look and inspect them from an AI perspective. Another one is every industry is a data industry. And with the emergence of generative AI, we're starting to see this concept, which I'll call ask your data, where in the past, when you had large volumes of data, complex data sets, you would have to hire special engineers, special DBAs, write complex SQL statements. Now it is a natural language to be able to go out and just ask data common questions about what you want to find out about your organization, about your customer, about your consumer, and then be able to get responses. And the best part of that is then you have a conversation with your data. So it doesn't just end with one question or one query. It's a constant conversation back. And now the engines are learning your habits, your questions, and then building off of that.
Thank you. Jean, do you want to touch upon banking industry quickly before we move on?
Yeah, I think the banking industry, look, it's a bit tricky because you have different aspects you have to look at. First one is the customer experience and anything related to a generation of revenue. And the second part is more efficiencies, productivity, that anyway will enhance the customer experience. Leveraging AI, for example, to take decisions on loans, credit risk, for example, could be business cases. But it's tricky. Why? Because of the risk of bias, where banks have to be very, very careful that they understand the algorithm, they understand the data that has been used to train those algorithms to avoid really those bias. And that's why AI, if you remember when I said it can take decision, I put in quotes, it's because it has to be used as a helper, a co-pilot, to name a product, but as a co-pilot really, where the human being is still going to be there to assess the outcome of the AI algorithm and then take the ultimate decision. I think the risk would be to let AI do whatever it wants, not check it, not take any decision, or let it take the ultimate decision.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and it's a very good segue to my next question, actually. We talked about the human element here, right? How it's crucial to recognize that the development or evolution of AI is heavily relies on human intelligence. So I think to start with, I would like to know things that AI can do and cannot do. And we hear this term prompt engineering a lot. So I would like to hear both your perspectives, Doug and Jean-Philippe.
Yeah, I'll start there, and it's a great question because we're led to believe AI can do everything and it can do everything autonomously. That's kind of what the nature of it. And I think that's why there is caution, and there is this fear of AI and CGI. We have a white paper called AI Fear or Favor for that reason. It's what are the considerations around the fear or the benefit to society and mankind around the art of the possible. And this concept of prompt engineering obviously is a very new concept. And it's very similar to what I just talked about with this ask your data scenario. It's how do I have a conversation with these large language models, with AI? And I was at a Gartner event earlier in the year, and it was a great slide. They talked about Python and Java all the way back to COBOL. And they say the new programming language is natural language. And that's so true. It's now we can just speak in our normal terms, in our native language, and just ask general questions. And the model will respond. The model can ask questions back, and then it will provide you the answers. And then you interact with those answers. But there is an art to prompt engineering. And I think that's one of the true possibilities for everyone on the phone is that's an art everyone should learn. It's how do you communicate with the models? And there are best practices, and you can ask the model to help you write better prompts too. That's the beauty of this. So it's great opportunity for every individual to upskill themselves around prompt engineering. But you asked a very good question earlier, is kind of what that is human intelligence. And we're still, I believe, we're still in the human in the loop phase. When you look at the history of AI, we had lots of data and we were able to write queries or use algorithms based off of that specific data set. We'll get a specific result. Now with generative AI, we are generating our own content, our own data, and through that query or that prompt engineering, there's a lot more ambiguity that can be introduced. Additionally, you're training these models. And as Jean-Philippe just talked about, which is so important, I always say AI itself is not biased. However, the data can be biased. The algorithm can be biased. The prompt, it can be biased. So all of those other pieces that are human interjected is where the ethical or the biasness comes in. We believe in a responsible use, and responsible use of AI has to be built into your solution or built into the solution, not bolted on, which is so important as part of every use case.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Chaya. I agree with you, Doug. And I think where everybody wants to use AI today. And I think true AI can do a lot of things, but we have to be careful not to use AI just to use AI. And often, the solution is found before the use case, and you try to find a use case that will fit the solution. And maybe you have a use case, but AI is not the answer. Maybe it is. You have to assess it. And after, I think there's a lot of education to do around it, because very similar to, the debate that happened many years ago around robotics, it's not that you're going to be using AI to eliminate jobs. No, it's to help people so they can focus on activities that have more value, in fact. So they're going to move from maybe things a bit more transactional or quantitative to something a bit more qualitative. And that's one of the challenge of reskilling, the workplace, in fact, because it's going to come fast. I think it's after the internet, probably the smartphones. I think that's the third large impact on the technology point of view.
Yeah, I agree. I think all great points discussed here. We talked about how important, your data that you're feeding into AI, right? Your prompts are so have to be good, and so AI doesn't change its responses, and there is no ambiguity in the responses, because if you're especially using it to make decisions, you got to be very careful about what data you're feeding into AI. And one thing we touched upon is the ethical and social considerations, right? And developing responsible AI. So I want to ask this question to Monica, especially from the academics point of view. Are there any specific points that are shared or discussed as part of this education that how important it is to create responsible AI solutions, right?
Chaya, I think it's really, as academic institutions, is very incumbent on us to make sure that we are providing it. So just a couple of contexts that I can give you. So we talked about human in the loop, which is more from a validation and confirmation perspective. There is also the front end where there's got to be human-centered design. And I think that human-centered design has become even more important with AI tools because of the fact that it requires even greater trust and confidence from its users. And when I say users, we're looking at primarily two categories. It's your employees as well as your external consumers. So that human-centric design is something that we continue to emphasize in our curriculum, especially as those that are training to be tech specialists. The second aspect is the governance mechanism is increasingly important. And so when we look at courses such as T-strategy or data management strategies, we have been greatly emphasizing the relevance of governance mechanisms in managing AI and in technology in general, but particularly stepping up in the area of AI and social media. And then the third thing that we are doing, in fact, one of the programs this year that we are revamping, every course that will be taught in that curriculum, in that program, will address some element of AI, whether it's an HR course, a technical course, an ethics course, a strategy course, or others. And so keeping in mind that we're saying whether we saw some executives on the webinar today, we've got some mid-career specialists, we've got technical folks, students, irrespective of what domain you're in, you need a holistic understanding of artificial intelligence, as well as ramifications for ethics, privacy, and so corporate responsibility. So those are all elements that have started very actively creeping into business curriculum throughout the US, I would say, and internationally. And I'll leave it there. It's a really important responsibility for us.
Yeah, great. You already steered in the direction of my next question. So, it's so important to understand how the corporate world and the academic world can collaborate well.
Yeah.
There has to be effective collaboration to actually what's been learned in the academia is actually practically is applicable in the corporate world. So I think, especially having you three on the panel definitely helps this conversation. So what I'm trying to ask is, where is the gap in knowledge? Not in general, I'm specifically talking about AI and advanced technologies. Where is the gap? What needs to be done to bridge that gap between academia and the corporate world? Because SheTek focuses a lot on, taking on these students and training them in the practical knowledge with practical scenarios, conducting workshops and preparing them for the corporate world. But what is that in this AI space that needs to be done? I think this question is for all three of you to bridge that gap. Anyone can go first.
Sure. So I'll quickly jump in because I'd love to hear Doug and Jean-Philippe's response as well. So I think one of the things that academia is doing, and we are continuing to try to get better at it, is there are aspects such as critical thinking, communications. We talked about prompt engineering. That's a significant communications element as well, that we are making significant effort to make sure that those elements continue to become an important part of our curriculum. So for example, just to give you an example, some of our finance faculty in the School of Business have introduced new assignments that actually pit the students against generative AI. And the students tend to think that generative AI is always right. But then we demonstrate to them that there are places and spaces in which generative AI will give you the wrong answer. And you are the human in the loop. How do you validate that? So that sort of critical thinking, kind of reflection, awareness of human capabilities versus machine capabilities, we've really started stepping those up to make sure that our students are aware, because these are going to be business leaders tomorrow, and they need to know the critical aspects of engaging with technology, deciding when to. I think Jean-Philippe made a great point. You don't have to adopt AI without evaluating whether it fits with the function that you have. And that's an aspect we're teaching the students, is where does a technology make sense, where does it not? So that's one kind of element. I think where we are seeing the opportunity to partner with corporations, I think Doug has some great examples. I'll give you some high-level ones. You probably recently read about the NVIDIA and Amazon partnership with University of Washington and University of Tsukuba, I think, in Japan, where they invested in building AI infrastructure along with academic partnership. Now that's significant. It was a $100 million investment. Not every company can and university have that scale of partnership, but there are other ways. For example, could students be involved in doing feasibility assessments for corporations on adoption of AI? Could there be projects that the students and the faculty and corporations collaborate on? Opportunities for internships in specific domains. What does a prompt engineer do? Taking those into a corporation. Nothing that's different from what we've done before, but it has to be built around the concepts of artificial intelligence. And I think there are new and even better opportunities for organizations to come in and say, what are ways that we can help with the curriculum? So universities tend to focus on basic knowledge and getting you the critical thinking skills. We are a little bit slower to adapt the advanced technologies, but partnerships with, say, SheTek or some of your organizations can help us expedite some of that integration of new technologies into our classrooms, which we are doing, for example, through our non-credit options and executive education units. So lots and lots of opportunities that some of them are very similar to what we've done in the past. Some of them may be more significant investments like NVIDIA and Amazon into other universities. So I'll pause there and hear from you.
Yeah, Monica, thank you. You touched on a great point about, these corporates establishing incubators, right,
Yes.
at the university. So with that, I want to give a chance for Jean-Philippe and Doug to chime in and add their input as well from the corporate perspective.
So look, I think, Doug, I saw you on mute, so I thought. So thank you. Look, I think, Monica, you said it all, and it's partnering with corporations, not just the one who are developing AI, but also the one who are applying AI in the various industries, whether it's healthcare, financial services, etc., to understand really how they use AI, what challenges they have, for instance, so they can adapt a little bit, the curriculum. Things like, the regulatory framework. I know that for banks, it's a big thing. Today, around AI, there's a lot of concern that there's no regulatory requirement per se that came up. I mean, Europe started to draft their own regulation that is complicated, and they're discussing that. We're probably going to see China and the US coming up also with their own. But it will be important, in academia to understand also, depending on the various industries, what are the concerns of the application of AI. Anything, I think, Doug, you mentioned privacy, for instance, is a big one. Intellectual property is a big one also. So all of that needs to be integrated. And I think discussing with corporations, reading what they're doing, talking to them, internship is a very, very good point, very important. I think most of our corporations are open to it.
Yeah, and just to add, and great points already made by Jean-Philippe and Monica. Monica mentioned the Rutgers is responding. They're responding by including AI and I'll say data science or data curriculums into every one of their majors. And we are seeing that across the board. And I believe that we need to see a tight relationship between higher education and industry. And we're from CGI, we're doing that. For a great example is Rutgers. We have a great partnership with Rutgers where we provide projects that are, I'll say, ripped from the headlines. Our customers are coming to us with challenges. They're talking about AI. We're providing that scope of work to a group of Rutgers, as well as other universities across the state of New Jersey and other universities across the US, and working with them to solve these problems. And in a lot of cases, we're then taking that result back to industry and then collaborating with that industry on a finalized production-based solution. But I think it is important to note that the skills of tomorrow will change. 10 years ago, or even just a couple of years ago, especially in the IT, we were looking for the Python and the Java, and you name the language, because that was what we needed to move forward. And yes, that will be there, but we also need students that are coming out with that analytical thinking, the creative thinking, flexibility, resiliency, that sense of self-learning, because learning is a journey now. And as soon as you know the latest technology, you're already out to date. So you need to have that continue to invest in your upskilling, invest in yourself. But as leaders that are on the phone, invest in your employees, because you're going to have to continue to upskill and to drive out more and more talent from your organization. I am impressed with what's happening across the U.S. with states like New Jersey and others that are partnering with academia and that are making sure that they're leading within the artificial intelligence community. Because what we have also seen is organizations where where students would travel, let's say, go to California or others because that's where the jobs were. Now the big industries are actually going to where the talent is. So it's a little bit of a dynamic shift. And I think that's important for states as well as academia and academic universities to recognize.
You made a great point, Doug. I think, where there is no talent is actually an opportunity to develop the talent there, right? And invite the industries and grow the economy. But a couple of things, as you're talking about the collaboration and the academia, there's one thing that keeps coming back, because the non-ethical AI practices are probably going at a faster pace than the ethical practices. So what's the understanding in the industry in terms of, the governance? Do we have enough maturity in the governance practices to handle those situations? And on the academic side, are we even structuring those programs so we can teach students about how to govern these practices?
Yeah, yeah, I love the kickoff, and I talked about this responsible use framework, and responsible use is everybody's business. And so what I always talk to my folks at CGI is, if you're uncomfortable putting something on social media or just sharing it on email, well, you shouldn't be putting it into a large language model. And I would actually maybe disagree a little bit on the ethical side of it. I always use the Tesla example. Unfortunately, when a Tesla has an accident utilizing autopilot, we hear about that. But we didn't hear about the million other ones that got there safely. So we listen to the loud voice. We listen to the bad stuff that happens with AI. And we get the theater out there. And most movies that portray AI are negative depictions of AI. So therefore, in our heads, we think AI evil in many ways. But we don't hear the AI for good and all of the good that we're hearing with creation of new drugs and new formulas that are saving people's lives. But I do not want to dismiss that we do need to train everyone, existing employees, existing citizens, and absolutely we need to be having these conversations with our students that responsible AI is everyone's business. And just as we would have a cybersecurity training or just the professionalism training that we get, we need to embed responsible use of AI as part of all of our trainings now.
So Monica, anything you want to talk about with respect to training and structuring those programs?
Yeah. So in our, at least in our technical programs, and especially in our graduate programs, governance is an element of our curriculum. And so students get it one way or another. Now it is going to be increasingly in the context of artificial intelligence, but our discussion of governance mechanisms and practices tend to be broad tech focused. The one thing that I will say is that, the US has been a little bit more, I guess, proactive this time. As you saw, the Surgeon General is now suggesting putting warnings on social media. I think that's come too late. But in artificial intelligence, there is a 2022 Bill of Rights. I don't know if everybody's fully familiar with it, that the White House put out about 2 years ago. That might be a strong framework to start putting governance mechanisms around artificial intelligence. It's got 5 fundamental principles which talk about the consumer's rights. But I think if those are adopted by corporations to allow them to use those as framework for developing, unique governance mechanisms to their organizations, I think that's an opportunity. So I think our next step will be to actually start taking what we broadly teach in the governance side and now fine-tuning it to these emerging technologies, because we tend to lag behind in governance in general relative to the emergence of technologies. So,
and there are frameworks, as you're talking about, that out there, and we need to actually start adopting to those frameworks and evolve from there. It's actually kind of opens up to so many opportunities out there for this evolving industry, right? So I think my next question I would ask Jean-Philippe is, are there, from the financial industry perspective, are there specific opportunities that are actually opening up? And my focus is on the entry-level positions. I mean, this is new to everybody. You won't have an AI expert yet, but at least, what are the opportunities out there? And what kind of specific skill sets should people learn to be able to, not only survive, to thrive in this industry?
Look, it's a great question, because I think very often people jump into, I need an AI developer. Not that simple. I think there's plenty of companies working around AI, and the idea would be more to understand what's out there. And there's a lot of ways of doing that. There's a lot of articles. I mean, LinkedIn is great to understand what people are doing there. So understand a little bit the industry you want to go to. And at that point, try to understand what tools you could leverage. So you definitely need people who are eager to learn, good design thinking also, and just look at all the training that are available, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, I mean, there's so many training you can take, and try to see in the industry where you want to go, if it's going to be more around prompt development. Is it chatbot also? I mean, chatbot in the industry is pretty big, because at the end of the day, it allows financial institutions to be up and running 24/7, I would say. So they can answer users or clients more at any point of time. All of that can be learned, and learn about, productivity, how AI can help you on your day-to-day, because you don't need to be a developer, for instance, to use AI. And at that point, what I would do, and I don't know what you think, Monica, but I would put, whatever tools on my resume to show that you know how to use those tools, but also that you're interested in learning those tools. I would definitely do that. And if possible, be in contact with people in the industry you're interested in, have a sort of mentor who you can talk to, who can help you also along that path. Because once you leave academia, you're a little bit on your own, I would say. Of course, in the workplace, you have people who are there to help you. And I think one of the things, maybe that we did not mention yet is one of the critical departments along this transformative journey is HR. Because ultimately, they're going to need to understand how AI is going to impact the workforce, and how the organization will need to accompany that transformation, because it's not always easy, to transform jobs of people, reskill people. So HR is critical in that journey.
Okay, great. So Doug, I just want to add one more thing when you respond to this. So because you look across the industries, right? So my question is, are the skills different across different industries? I know there needs to be some business knowledge required.
Yes.
And there are different positions which are entry level, probably not so much business oriented, could be operational tools that you don't need. They can be common across multiple industries. You don't need specific knowledge of the business, but there is also a need to understand the business, so you actually feed the right data, analyze it right properly. Yep. So what's your
I absolutely agree with your statement. What's going to be one of the big differentiators for our students coming out of college, but also early career professionals, is to learn the business in which they're serving. And because if we're already saying that generative AI and AI can help you, or as Jean-Philippe talked about, co-pilot, or be your co-pilot, your AI co-pilot around code development, testing, whatever that's going to be. Well, the differentiation will be you understand the data, you understand the contextualization of that data as it applies to the business process. And earlier we were talking about use case, and use case is so important when it comes to AI, because AI is a big umbrella term. And so when you think about AI, everything is bundled under AI right now. We have intelligent automation, we have natural language, we have deep learning, machine learning. Heck, data by itself is now bundled under AI. So you can, as a self-learning person, you can pick one of those streams and learn that capability. But equally important is the data and the business in which that data is serving. And let's not forget the soft skills, because I think the soft skills are going to be even more important. To be able to understand technical concepts, have conversations with both business and IT, be able to collaborate back and forth. That is a huge differentiator moving forward. The years of past where we have deep developers that are sitting and just coding, we'll probably have that for the next couple of years, but eventually we're going to see that start to go away. We started to see it with low code, no code. And now with generative AI, we'll see even less of that dependency on that. So I think the skills of tomorrow will start to transition, and there are plenty of opportunities to learn. Jean-Philippe talked about a lot of those. Just go out to the higher institutions. Social platforms have a lot of learnings out there. There's a lot of certifications that individuals can take just to get an upskill and understand what's next and what they should be learning.
Thank you. We already touched up on a lot of resources that people can look at. So, I mean, we can have this conversation for hours, and you know that we're all passionate about it. Time flies. So I want to leave some time for the questions. Are there any last minute thoughts that you want to share before we open up for questions? Any of you?
So Chaya, just one quick comment on your last question. We have some early career professionals on our webinar today. What I want to remind them, and building off of what Doug just said, there are certain roles in the tech sphere which are going to continue to become even more important. Your business systems analyst, because of the liaison now with the user, your relationship managers, your project managers, those, if you can layer with the knowledge of AI and understanding of AI, that really now elevates your opportunity, especially to what John said. If you've tried some new tools in AI and you are a project manager, your resume looks a lot stronger when you add those tools on. So I don't want to lose sight of the fact that there are certain roles that already exist, UI, UX designers and so on, whose knowledge of AI can really elevate that. But then there are new roles that are emerging, like AI ethicists and AI solutions consultants and so on, for which, some sort of retooling and certifications may be really beneficial because they do a deeper dive into the AI space. So certainly lots of opportunities looking at, workforce development units, professional education, certification organizations, LinkedIn Learning, as Jean had said earlier as well.
Great points. I mean, it's important that, I tell my mentees, always go check, do the research in the market. What kind of jobs are out there? What are the titles? What are the skill sets? What are the job descriptions? What resources are they looking for? And do the, back engineering and find out what you need to really develop, where the gaps are, right? So, yeah, great points. So if anything, Jean-Philippe, Doug, or I would like to open it for questions.
Yeah, just one point would be, just get started. If you haven't started to leverage this technology, start. I use it in every day of my life to help me better prepare. Heck, I use it to prepare for this conversation. And after this conversation, I'll be posting my LinkedIn. I'll be using it to generate my LinkedIn post. And I would just say everyone should start to leverage it, find use cases. It will help you. It'll help optimize and make your day a little bit more efficient.
Excellent point. Okay. So Joanne, you want to come back and share the questions?
I will. We have a couple of very interesting questions, actually. And this first one is for Jean-Philippe. How do you assess if AI is the best answer of your need? You kind of touched on that, but somebody specifically asked this question.
No, it's a great question. Thank you for asking. Look, I think it all starts with your use case, detailing really what is your use case and what is the outcome you're trying to achieve. At that point, I mean, AI is so wide because, as we mentioned before, it can touch multiple things. It can be productivity. So is it your use case? I don't know. And then try to determine what are the different solutions, not just one. What are the different solutions? At that point, based on the different solution you're going to determine and the outcome, I think it's really that you're going to be able to determine if AI is the best. Because I've encountered, in the past cases where people wanted to do automation, where ultimately just fixing a bug was resolving the issue. So that's why I'm saying just be careful and evaluate it very carefully.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Jean-Philippe on this. It's important to look at every use case independently and don't go around with a hammer looking for a nail. We want to make sure it's the right technology. And as we look at use cases, we assess them across 9 critical categories. Is the data ready? Is it of high quality? Is the business process well defined? Is that part of the business ready for that change? Because change culture is so important, and many other considerations. But it may not be AI. It may be a simple robotic process automation bot, or it could just be something even a simple advanced report. Don't go in predetermined that it needs to be AI or generative AI. Bring the right tool set, but let the human centricity process and let your assessment pick the right technology, not the other way around.
We've got another question.
Yeah, there is a couple of other questions. Yeah.
Yeah. This one is, there appears to be a shift in the AI hype cycle, with a growing concern about real economic returns versus the cost of Gen AI. What have you seen as impactful return from AI that overcomes the concern of the Gen AI costs?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump into this, and I'll actually start off by saying I don't think we realize the true cost of AI just yet. Everyone is dabbling. Everyone is at the early part of the adoption curve within their businesses. So they're doing proof of concepts, maybe some production, but very early on. Just as we saw with cloud and cloud technologies many years ago, when folks started to adopt cloud, they lifted and shifted applications. They thought cloud was cheap, and then they realized, wow, cloud is not as cheap as I thought. So they started to reevaluate their strategies. As they start to widely adopt and have enterprise solutions with generative AI, they'll start to realize the true cost of AI. Now, that being said, we are seeing a significant optimization in a lot of different areas. Earlier, we talked about development cost. We have started to see organizations adopting generative AI to almost reduce 30% of development costs across the organization by introducing the technology. In addition to that, you think a co-pilot at their side for quality of code. So just the quality aspects of it, the efficiencies of many back office operations is another big area. Because remember, we're not just talking about generative AI anymore. It's that umbrella. It's all of those different technologies that give us that ROI.
This one is an interesting one, and it'll be interesting to get your feedback. Do you think there's a long-term danger with AI in the way humans may be evolving? Granted, evolution is a long process, but for example, there seems to be a concern that there's an increased and ongoing reliance on AI may, in the long run, reduce the way humans' natural intelligence, how they problem solve, how they create. So if you think there is, what can we do so we're focused on the human development? Or if you disagree, what do you think?
So I can take a quick stab because I think about this often. I referred to social media earlier, and that's a great example of where we've seen tremendous benefits and connectivity. We've also seen significant downside. Look, with the growth of AI, adoption of AI, our risks to individuals and to corporations will increase. There is no doubt about that. Every new significant technological development has done that. I think where I always say as a technologist, the fault does not lie with the technology. It is how we use and adopt the technology that becomes really important. And I think with artificial intelligence, there are some very genuine concerns, particularly we don't know what the long term will look like. But Anushka, I see your question that I think there is a good chance that it will change how we are. But I think it is in our hands to decide if we want to automate and eliminate and change ourselves, or whether we choose to create and enhance ourselves. And I think it will take a significant collective effort, the joint responsibility between individuals, because we put a lot of onus on corporations, as we should, but we also need to place equal and important responsibilities on individuals as well as the public officials to come together and predict. We have not been visionary in the past about the impact of technology, both positive and negative. We need to change that, and we need to be much more proactive, because one thing that we haven't had a chance to talk about is a lot of what we see today is narrow AI. But in the long run, where the true potential of AI will lie is in the artificial general intelligence, where it goes beyond a narrow function, but starts doing a lot more. And we are not there. We are decades away from that, but it's going to happen. So I think being able to predict, or at least have a vision for what the impact of technology will be, or this technology will be on us, is going to be really important, and a very strong collective effort, individuals, corporations, as well as public officials.
Yeah. I think we are on time. So I just want to add one thing to what Monica said. Definitely, Monica, what you said is it makes a lot of sense in terms of how we need to keep track of what is happening and really keep the control on it, not succumb to AI really. We are only enhancing our skills, right? We are enhancing and we're polishing our skills to be smarter than, and I think it's a good challenge to have. But at the same time, not giving up into what is happening and thinking that, oh, humans have no power anymore, right? So, yeah, thank you. So first of all, I want to thank all of you for your time, and it's a wonderful discussion, and I hope our listeners enjoyed the conversation. And I know Joanne has a couple of things towards the end of the session, so back to you, Joanne. Thank you so much.
As we hit the end of the session, I just wanted to share a slide, and Chaya, maybe you want to speak to this, but we have some exciting news coming up, speaking of AI.
Yeah. So this
why don't
is
you take it away?
AI boot. Yeah. This is AI Essentials Technical Bootcamp. We're launching probably in mid-August. So we'll be opening up applications in mid-July. So this is primarily to help anyone who is looking at a career in the AI industry, in the AI space, in various industries, because it's only focusing on the fundamental aspects of it. But we are so excited that some of our volunteers come from practical experience from the industries. So as we talked about use cases before, that's what we're going to be introducing in this program. This would be a self-learning program with touch points with these industry experts to mentor our students and guide them through the process. And we are so fortunate that Metropolitan Commercial Bank has sponsored some of these certifications. So we will be able to help support people who are unable to pay for the certifications. So we will be giving more details around it. So it's a certification program, and we are so excited that we are partnering with Rutgers on this. And this will be a certification given from SheTek and Rutgers. Once you complete this bootcamp successfully, I think it is going to be either 16 or 18 weekend bootcamps, each about 90 minutes. So one session every week, but there will be a lot of homework for you to do as well. So just like our previous bootcamps, that's how this has been structured. So thanks once again. And we will hope once we open the applications, we hope to see some more registrations there.
And if anybody is interested and they want to make sure that they get the applications when they come out, please send us an email at contact@shetek.net and say, I want to be on the AI Essential Bootcamp list. We'll make sure that once those applications open up, we will make sure that you will be among the first to get them. The last bit of details that we have are just to tell you a little bit about SheTek. As many of you know, it's shetek.net, and we are here to help engage, empower, and employ women in the tech field. So you can always find out more about us at shetek.net or by going to bit.ly/join-shetek and be a part of the community. And thank you all for being here. Remember to follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you want to follow us. You want to follow us around the office, you can do that too. And remember to send us those contacts at contact@shetek.net. Thank you everyone for participating in our program today, and look for the video coming to you all soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Joanne. Thanks. Great job. Thanks for coordinating this. And thanks to our panelists and listeners.